Let's see. All right. You hear me okay, Tyler? Cheers, guys. Just want to make sure you guys hear me okay. I think that was for that. Good stuff. Right on, guys. Stoked, super stoked. Just give it a little bit here. Holy smokes, filling up. You guys are all right? If I have a little bit of Japanese food and a beer, right? Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while, Jefferson. Lots of names I recognize. Holy smokes, good stuff. Right on. So, how you guys been? Lots to talk about in VR. Lots to talk about in general. Just gonna quickly bring you guys up to speed. Let's give it about another 30 seconds. Just one more confirmation, guys. Can you hear me? Okay. Awesome. Good stuff. Yeah, it's 4 months, eh? Holy smokes. Hard to imagine, Dev Puppy, that it's been 4 months. All right, good stuff. Sounds okay. I'm using my webcam, one of those C920s, so picture might be a little bit off, but you guys can see me. I can see you guys. Good enough. Let's get started. So I got a little bit of a just kind of a checklist of stuff, but you know what? If you've got questions, just shoot, guys, and I'll try to keep my eye on the chat as well. Just bring you guys a little bit up to speed in terms of what's been happening. So, last I left you guys was February 4th. I think that was my last episode. And perfectly honest, I took a break from VR pretty much completely. Didn't even play much VR in terms of games. Popped up on the VR roundtable. But you know what? I kind of felt a little imposterish because I hadn't been playing much. And what wasn't fair of me to be on the show and not be as involved in the content as I should have been. I should have done a little bit more homework from that, but they asked, I obliged, but really wasn't totally up for it spirit wise yet. Yeah, it does seem like longer, Jefferson, than 4 months. Holy smokes. Not too loud. Loud and clear as in good audio level, not too loud, right? All right. Good stuff. So yeah, I'll just quickly bring you guys up to speed. So where I left it was that, and basically started looking for work, which I found. So I'm working here on the other side of the coast, and started missing VR. It was a little bit at first, then VR Skyrim came out, not PlayStation VR. Of course, I tried that. You guys might have seen my video on that. Welcome back, Jawa. Thank you. Like I said, lots of names I recognize. I'll definitely I'll pay attention to the chat in a second here. That's awesome watching from Brazil. Right on, Ramon. Right on. Well, thanks a lot, guys. Daniel Fritz, another longtime viewer there. David, holy smokes. James, XHey18. Yeah, wow. Lots of names. Yeah, definitely. Can I make a Skyrim mod video? Absolutely. That's kind of what I want to talk about. So, saw Skyrim VR off in the background, people talking about it. I knew it was going to be a lot better than the PlayStation version for one reason, modding. And that was pretty evident right away that modding was working, right? Skyrim Special Edition. There's a little thing that you've got to do with the file where you basically swap the directory, the mod file, but it works. And I've tried quite a few mods. So it was just kind of experimenting with that. And holy smokes, guys, when you haven't been in VR for a while, that's when it hits you. What's up? Not a lot, guys. Well, actually, a lot's up. That's why we're chatting. But yeah, it hit me hard. I couldn't believe I was in Skyrim. I was looking around. It just doesn't do it justice on the PlayStation VR. Love my PSVR. Resident Evil 7, hands down, top 5 VR experiences all time. But Skyrim VR, for whatever reason, it just didn't impress me on the PlayStation as much as it probably should have. And again, probably has to do a lot with the modding. I've got the 2017 textures on, and yeah, it's just amazing. Combat's a bit cheap, so I kind of force myself to use magic or arrows. But yeah, because the sword, you're basically doing this and stuff dies just by walking in front of it. Yeah, little cheesy. Nice show today. Factory Life. Thanks, man. Like I said, it's great to be back, guys. So yeah, like I said, I've got my beer here. Speaking of which, so got a job since then, focused on the History Channel a little bit, but with work, didn't really have a lot of time to be able to put in. But I did learn a lot more editing wise, and I kind of want to throw that into the new show. So, you know what? I had a list and I was going to kind of go in order, but I'm just going to go out of order and I'm going to try to pay attention to questions here if I see it. If I see any questions to kind of answer them. But yeah, so what I'm thinking of the new show, guys, and really it was a lot of burnout too, trying to do a show every day. And then it was second guessing myself, trying to do different types of shows and then have two different formats, which I think just confused people more than it did anything else. Confused me at times. What am I doing? Roundtable? Is this the the vlog style one? Is this the news one? Did I try Skyrim VR, Vive, or Oculus? Both of them. I've tried it on both. And I got to say, I'm playing it more on the Rift because of the touch controllers. But it looks great on the Vive. It works just as well. It's just one game where I prefer the touch controllers. But yeah, I've tried it on the Vive as well. So what I want to do with the show, it's going to be a weekly show, and it's going to have elements of what I had before. So the idea here, I'm just going to scroll down my sheet, guys. So it's going to have a VR roundup. Instead of being a separate show, is going to be a segment. So it'll just be quick news bits. And if anybody's kind of watched Facepalm, I really like kind of his style. The whole show is not going to be copycat, obviously, just in terms of how the little bits are presented. Editorial / rant. And then what I was thinking of doing was throwing in some gameplay footage, just like top 3 of the week, top 4 of the week, whatever I happen to be playing. And it doesn't have to be a lot of footage, maybe 30 seconds, 45 seconds while I'm talking about a particular experience, but you get to see me in game, hear my thoughts on it. So looking about, yeah, I love Facepalm. Absolutely. Go for another longtime viewer there. He's one of those guys that I just think he does such a fantastic job. He's got a very good sense of humor and a really quick wit. And yeah, it comes off really well for what he does. I really enjoy it. Absolutely. Welcome back. Thanks, guys. Do I have a Vive Pro? No. I was going to talk about the Vive Pro, though. I do not have a Vive Pro yet. I want to get one, but that price tag, little cost prohibitive. But for Skyrim, that was the first thing I thought. Imagine I could be playing this on a Vive Pro or a Samsung Odyssey. So I guess I'll throw that back at you guys. Yeah, absolutely. Facepalm has high quality vids. For sure he does. And you know what? It's a weekly video. Sometimes he even skips a week, but the quality is always there. And that's what I really like about his show. And what I kind of want to do is I want to have a higher quality of editing and presentation. And if it means I throw a little bit more into that one episode, fine, I'll do it. You guys can skip the content you don't like. I've always used that table of contents. That seems to work pretty well. But yeah, it's going to be short news segments, me playing whatever my favorite VR things of the week are, or just trying new things, could be apps, and then more kind of an editorial towards the end and tie that all together into one show. Like I said, really excited, guys. Do I have Patreon account up yet? No, I don't yet, and I'm probably going to leave it disabled for a while, or at least not entertain it for a while. I don't want to come across like a pinball because I know it kind of looks like that. He's gone, he's back, he's gone. Uh, yeah, I just want to focus on the content and not worry about the money aspect or the views or any of the other stuff that I did obsess with, probably way too much. And that definitely played into the burnout. I want to go back to what I enjoyed about it, and which was doing it for fun, right? So once a week with that kind of format, I don't think you can fool people, if you're doing it for the wrong reasons. And towards the end there, I think it was pretty obvious that I was pretty burnt out. Yeah, so I don't want to introduce a bunch of, you know, pressures or stressors right off the bat. I just want to focus on having a good time and being able to have a show for you guys to watch every week. So waiting for a true Gen 2, yeah, over the Vive Pro. I know it's all right. You know what? I'm going to shut up for a second here. I'll start yapping again in a sec. Let me just make sure I don't want to miss any questions. So I'm just going to go keep drinking beer. When you took the, the show made me sad. Well, yeah, this beer's not going anywhere. Are you still in Elite? You know what? That was another game that I kind of came back to after that hiatus of not playing any VR, guys. And yeah, it was actually that first, Elite Dangerous, then the Skyrim VR, and it felt as good as ever. Yeah, it's a grindy game. You got to be into that kind of a game. You got to enjoy that aspect of it, but I do. And like I said, nothing beats the feeling, especially in VR when you're doing in real life what you're doing in game, right? Sitting in the cockpit and you're using the exact same throttle and flight stick that the game devs use to model the in-game ones, and you set them in the same position. It's magic. And that to me is just one of the strong points of VR. And it's a seated experience, still one of my favorite. Any updates on the Pimax? Yes, 8K. I was actually going to talk about that because I've been following, obviously, the news a little bit too. So they finally started their mass production phase. And I noticed that they've also made an announcement about including Steam VR 2.0 tracking. And they're doing that via the HMD and their kind of knuckleish controllers. So, yeah, I've been following that. Am I going to get one myself? Probably at some point for sure. It's kind of hard to turn away 4K, but yeah, I'll catch up. You guys know what I have. Still got the old Rift. I've got the Vive. I did manage to get a phone. This one here, I picked up a Samsung. What is this? A Galaxy 8, I think it is, so that I can even use the Rift. But I'll get up to speed. I'll catch up again. So PlayStation VR, Rift, Vive. Probably get a Pro, although I'm kind of leaning towards the Samsung Odyssey instead of the Pro. Anybody who has the Samsung Odyssey and or that's tried both that can compare, let me know. So let's take a look here. Can we get a weekly or monthly live video where we can pick your brain? Yeah, absolutely. You know what? This is something I wanted to do, and I probably should have done a lot earlier than right now. But yeah, I'll try to do it more regularly for sure. Can we get a weekly? Do you still content for? Oh, absolutely. The History Channel. Yeah. But you could tell even from the get go, it was never something I was doing daily, hell, even weekly on the History Channel. It was something that I was doing whenever I had time or was inspired. And as I was kind of looking for work, the History Channel frequency was less and less as well. But absolutely, I'll be doing it. But I'm not overcommitting on the history side of things. I'm not going to overcommit here. Just kind of one of me, and I don't want to stretch too thin. I enjoy them both. So absolutely. Need to get back into Elite. Yeah, you know what? It's a Dev Puppy. It's a nice game to kind of get back into. It's kind of like leaving a bike at a station, and then you get back to it. It's right there. Feels comfortable. Need to get back. Welcome back. Thanks, guys. How's it going? It's going awesome. It's going really well, especially now that I'm working again. It was a little dicey there for a few months because this is a much smaller city where I'm in now. It's about 500,000 people. Vancouver area, kind of that whole metro area, is almost 3 million people. So, where I'd see 10 IT manager job postings every week in Vancouver, I think I've seen 10 here since the summer posted, just to give you an idea. So Where the hell are Knuckles? Yeah, that's a good question. And are the Vive lens swaps worth it? You know what? I saw that, but I haven't gotten up to speed. I'm going to be honest with you guys. Well, I'm always honest, but there's a lot of gaps. I really literally just kind of came back to this a couple of weeks ago. I mean, I've been given it good 2 weeks thought, but in terms of the reintroduction to VR, so there's a lot of stuff that I got to catch up on myself, but I'll get there. Would the FPS be better if you had two HMD monitors with two separate HDMI cables? Yeah, there's all kinds of even external. I'm sure they could come up with things to speed up the HMDs. And I think we're going to see my worry with VR as I got three thoughts crashing into each other. And I can see it right now. It's still that price point thing. Because the other thing I noticed coming back after 4 months, we're still in the same situation. There are quality games out there, but those big titles from the big game companies, although there was one I saw that looked pretty damn impressive, Space Junkies, kind of like an Unreal Tournament, looked pretty vibrant, looked pretty good. But a lot of those big titles still haven't really launched because the game companies are still standing on the sidelines and they know the critical mass still isn't there yet, right? So until then, it's the Steam devs. It's, and you know what? The devs that have old games, and you can say what you want about Bethesda, and yes, they've marketed Skyrim, 10 ways to Tuesday for every platform. I think they've hawked that thing. I mean, it's coming, it's on the Switch as well. They've hawked that on every piece of hardware they could, but they've also delivered for us on the VR front. And that's saying something. There's a lot of companies that have completely turned a blind eye to VR, ignored us completely. They could have done the exact same thing, taken some old games, converted them, given us those titles, those AAA titles. We don't care if they're 5, 6 years old, 10 years old, even. A good game is a good game. Doom 3 is a perfect example of that. I liked it better than Doom VFR. I just thought that plodding, slower pacing just lent itself so much freaking better than the faster Doom VFR in VR. But that's me. All right. See how much I yap. So I'll shut up for a second again and just kind of catch up here. Any plans to make a video with Exidy soon? Funny that you mentioned that. So that's Niberian. So you guys know I lived in Vancouver. Now I'm on the other side of Canada, and it's 6,700 kilometers. So about what, 4.5, 5,000 miles. He's still out that way, right? So yeah, we could do something online, but he's actually thinking of moving out here and hopes to do that before the end of the summer. If that happens, Game Fridays are going to make a comeback. And I was actually going to run that by you guys. If I do streaming things, might be fun to do it on a Friday, Game Friday wise. Have I tried the Oculus Go yet? No, I haven't. Haven't tried the Go yet. Haven't tried the Vive Pro. Haven't tried the Samsung Odyssey. There's a lot I got to catch up on, guys. But like I said, I will catch up. I will get there. I know a bunch of people here with VR in the new city where I'm in, and they've got this gear. So I'll be catching up to speed again. Valve has its own time zone. Yeah, things move a quarter of the speed of smell. Indeed, they do, go for Chucks. Indeed, they do. Hello, greetings out of Holland in German. Thank you. Good thing I can read a little German. GP Auto. Thank you. En blij dat je weer terug bent, Epyx. Bedankt. Thanks very much. Eve 2 Knuckles production ready and the skeletal beta. Yeah. You sent me so many good links, Jawa, and apologies. And I told you that in the text. At that time, I just wasn't too into kind of reading up on VR. I was just way too burnt out. I know it kind of goes beyond that, but awesome to see you back. Thanks. Giftable price. Yeah, $249 Canadian for the Oculus Go. Absolutely. That is a perfect price point. And that's where we got to get these units too, right? And we're not there yet, but we get to that point, a little bit higher resolution. I was way more optimistic. I mean, you can go back to my videos before Christmas, and I was convinced still we were going to see something VR wise on the Xbox One come E3. I was shut down on that um, pretty quickly. That didn't happen. Have I done any more sim stuff such as Project Cars 2? That's the one thing that's keeping me going. No, I haven't. Well, I guess Elite Dangerous sim in the sense of the controllers, but no. But those are the things that I definitely want to get back into because those were among my favorite VR experiences. Were the cockpit ones, just because, like I said, that seated experience mirrors what you're doing in game, and you don't have that fourth wall breaking constantly where you're running into stuff or going out of bounds or lose tracking, right? Miss Exidy, can't remember how to spell that. Exidy. It's an old school arcade game company. Company or game? It was my buddy's favorite game. Game, I think. I could be wrong. Made it. Welcome back, fellow Maritimer. Thanks. Yeah. So, okay. So I think I got most of the questions. If I didn't, just post it again. I'll try to get to it as quick as I can here. So let's get back to kind of the stuff that I want to talk about. Yeah. So Skyrim VR Elite was kind of what brought me back. And just looking at some games, Space Junkies. Has anybody seen that title? It's very much kind of an Unreal tournament style game set in zero G. And zero G, it gets done a lot, but I think it gets done a lot for a reason. Is again, it's a gameplay mechanic that I think works really well in virtual reality because it plays to the limitations of room scale tracking and, like I said, the bumping into stuff. You have that as a gameplay element slash cop out, sure. You know, the zero G aspect, yeah, it just plays well. So that was one that I saw, but yeah, I didn't see a troll alert. Yeah, there we go. Got to have those, right? So what I was saying earlier, if there's anybody who's got a Samsung Odyssey or Vive Pro or tried them, really interested in hearing kind of the pros and cons of each, just based on your experience. Yeah, I wouldn't even waste our time with the trolley troll. What did Exidy mean? It was, there we go. What did Exidy mean? It was something like excellence and whatever the city was for. Oh, what did it mean? Yeah, like I was saying, it was a game, old arcade space game, Exidy. And where did I put my little checklist? There we go. So yeah, anybody who joined late, just quick recap of what I'm going to do for that show. So it's basically going to tie the elements together. I'm not going to do the daily stuff and 3 different formats of show. It's going to be one show. It's going to have a VR roundup segment that it kind of starts with, which is quick news bits, and not necessarily call them news bits, but that kind of style. Gameplays, whatever I happen to be playing, footage of that. Tips, tricks, and then editorial style / rant if there's something that ticks me off that week that's worth talking about. That'll be in there. Odyssey is great. Yeah, that's why I'm asking Cosmonaut. Thinking the same thing. So, and I think price wise too, there's a bit of a savings there versus it, and it's compatible. So why not? Odyssey is great. Tracking is okay. Yeah, as long as, when you say tracking is okay, Joel, are you saying compared to what? Like compared to Vive, is it a little worse because it uses the same system, right? Or is it the software? Is that the issue? How it hooks into the driver? Let me know. And let's see what else we got here. Question wise, I've tried the Samsung Odyssey at PAX. Visually, it's pretty good. Tracking is okay. So second person to mention that. So okay, that's good to know. I claimed a Space Junkies beta key yesterday. That's from James Davis. Awesome. But it's not in your Oculus library. from Upload VR. Okay, if you do get that, yeah, let me know. Curious how it is. Space Junkies looks good if it has Vive support. Yeah, that's one thing I didn't check when I was looking, was to see if it was Vive or Rift or both. So I'll have to take a look. For obvious reasons, I usually don't worry because I have both, but talking about it, actually have a key. Hey, Blue, how's it going? Long time no chat. I think it's been a few weeks. If it's a spare key, sure, Blue. But if it's your only key, don't worry about it. I mean, appreciated. But yeah, if it's a spare, absolutely. That would be awesome. And greetings from Denmark. Greetings right back at you. Yeah, the immersion with Styx wheels is superb. Yeah, for sure. And I know I've beaten that to death with longtime viewers, but absolutely. It's kind of for where we are right now with the technology of VR, the limitations of the room scale, the resolution, cockpit just works so well, whether it's racing, space, flying. It's just such a nice fit. And then to have a good gamer experience on top of that, even better. It's a spare key. Awesome, Blue. Appreciate that. Thanks, man. And me as well, John Adams. Missed you guys too. Missed the show. Absolutely. Actually have a key. Didn't see it. The Odyssey is best for seated experience with HOTAS or wheel. Okay. That's interesting. Now you guys have me really curious because that's about 3-4 people now mentioning the tracking aspect on the Samsung Odyssey as being, yeah, not so good. All right. I think I'm caught up with the questions. So kind of back to my, the other thing I noticed in the news today was that ZeniMax versus Oculus, which is still going on. You got to love that in the Western world, right? These legal cases that just drag on for, oh man, some of them drag on for like a decade. So apparently the penalty in that reduced to 250 million. Man, that's still a nice hefty sum. And the motion to halt the sales rejected. And come on, pretty much everyone knew that would get rejected. That would just be a surefire way of killing VR momentum. Pocket change, yeah, exactly. Tell you, I wouldn't mind that falling into my pocket, even 1/250th of that. Look forward to seeing the videos again. Thanks, man. Epyx, glad to see you back online. From Liam Nielsen. Yeah. Thanks, man. Great to see you guys too. All right. I don't want to butcher the name. Jung, is it? Jung21, who's got to go. Take care. Thanks for dropping by. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the new videos too, guys. Like I said, the one nice benefit of doing the history videos was just really kind of getting into the editing aspect a bit more. And anybody who's watched the channel for a while knows that the first videos, it was brutal because I really didn't know anything about editing. And I would try to get everything in one take. And those first videos were 15, 20 minutes long. And to try to do that without making a mistake, yeah, there were some long nights there where it was like 3, 4, 5 hours, 6 hours, etc. Obviously, once you learn the editing, you can cut a lot of stuff out and just better quality overall. Lots of new hardware on the horizon. Absolutely. So what are my thoughts on the Pimax? Yeah, Crash 7791 asks. So I've said it before in terms of delays. Look, the one thing they have done is they've communicated throughout the process, right? If there'd been this gap of 5-6 months where Pimax went, radio silent, didn't say anything, left people wondering, I would have a huge problem with that. But if you're, as honest as you can be, because, and I don't think it's dishonesty, I just think it's they don't necessarily want to get into all the technical things that they bump into, right? So they summarize it for the audience. But from what I can tell, and even just not being part of VR for the last few months, I have seen articles, I've seen them make statements, right? Just like the one that they came out with that I read on Road to VR. So I think they're doing a good job of just keeping the communication going. Now, do I what do I actually think about the hardware itself? I love the resolution, but what I want to test and see for myself, and Swiviver pointed this out when he was able to test an earlier unit, is that field of view, kind of the warpage on the periphery, right? So kind of your far peripheral sides. I want to get a sense of how that feels with that bigger field of view and how evident that warping is. That's going to be huge for me because certain things visual I can live with. And then there's other things like dead pixels where I see a dead pixel and I can't stop staring at it and it just ruins it for me. And my first Vive had half a dozen dead pixels and they were all near screen center. Thankfully, that thing died. But while it was still alive, yeah, that just bothered me. So, and Chili Chili Frosting says, "Hey man, you don't have to pressure yourself with the editing. Your content is good." Yeah, yeah, no, I hear you. And not pressuring in that respect, just being able to make it look a bit more polished. I'm not going to go crazy spending 5-6 hours editing an episode. Uh, Definitely not. But I could do a bit more than what I was doing before. And that's why I brought up Facepalm. That style of editing, I really like it. I think it helps kind of keep viewers engaged because it's nice, quick transitions, right? He does that really well, I think. What are my thoughts about Oculus half dome prototype? Honestly, another one, Jorgensen, that I got to get back up to speed with. So you can have my assurance, guys, and I've been doing some of that already the last few weeks. But like I said, I gave it 2 weeks to think about it. The last 4 or 5 days, I was pretty sure I was going to do it. And the last 2 days, I was really sure I was going to do it. And last night, I was like, I'm going to do it. So now that I've made that commitment, I'll get back up to speed with the technology and go back to what I was doing before, which was Reddit's news, scouring the interwebs, right, for articles. I thought you had a job when you moved. Did that not work out? No, it was no. We basically took advantage of the real estate difference between the West Coast and the East Coast. So, um, if you're not a Canadian, Vancouver is one of the hottest real estate markets. So our house almost tripled in value within the 8 years that we had it. So the whole idea was to kind of scale back the stress of our lives a little bit and go somewhere where we could be mortgage free. And that's kind of why we picked this area. That way we didn't have to worry about, having a certain level of job or employment. We didn't have the crazy expenses and lifestyle that we had there. So I was just doing light consulting when I came out. So I was keeping myself busy, but it wasn't full time. And now with my daughter, the one thing that changed is she got accepted to Sheridan, which is an animation slash art school in Ontario. And it's not cheap. So Papa's saved well, but she's going to be on campus. So I'm going to make sure that she can do that and just focus on her art. And hopefully we'll see her doing video game stuff in the future. That'll be awesome. So yeah, that's the main thing that's changed is her getting accepted to that school. I am doing the Gear VR lens swap to my Vive, says Gopher Chucks. Yeah, let me know how that works out. I got a scratch, so nothing to lose. Exactly. If you've got that scratch, and same thing, dead pixels and scratches on my arcade monitor. I had one of those, drove me nuts. So I hear you. They should really get eye tracking for foveated rendering. Agreed, Jawa. That itself is going to be huge, not just for performance, but the types of experiences that that's going to enable, right? That's going to allow just a whole new level of AI because you're going to have game characters. I mean, in Skyrim, for example, Skyrim VR, you come face to face with a character. You stand there, you can look that character up and down. The AI does not care. It's not programmed to care or to even look for that sort of stuff. Now imagine that same game, Skyrim VR, uh, you're haggling, right? Which is a part of a lot of RPG games. You're haggling with a shopkeep. All right. You've got eye tracking. You can do so much with that from an AI level, right? Somebody's shifty, they're not able to kind of meet the gaze of the shopkeeper. He gets a little more aggressive on the haggling, or maybe, there's an attraction there that gets noticed, and then the situation becomes a little more flirty. I mean, there's so much you can do with eye tracking aside from the obvious graphical stuff with foveated rendering. So that nerds me up pretty good. GP Auto, you hope with my brother that everything is okay. GP Auto, you must be somebody in my family because nobody really knows about me and my brother. So I'm going to assume you're one of my cousins in Germany, possibly, or nephews. All right. And oh, I see you're eyeing up my potions. Exactly. They're on sale, Exactly. That's Cosmonaut. You nailed it. It's that kind of stuff, right? Is he living in Germany? No, no, no. I've got two brothers. They all live here, but we have lived in Germany and we lived in Holland. So we're actually, my father's Dutch, mother's German. That's why I can read German, but Dutch is the one I'm fluent in. I've seen your vid, Coolio. Nice vid. Hope the family are all good. Thank you. Thanks very much. And I'm just going to catch up on some questions here. Liam, Epyx, what segments of your shows attract the most viewers? Maybe you could focus your energy on those to maximize impact. Yeah, when I say I'm not going to get us swept up, because I am a min-maxer by nature. If I'm playing RPGs, like I just started playing Diablo 3 again, and like I am with Skyrim, it becomes all min-maxing. I get into that, and I treated YouTube much the same. So that's not to say I'm going to ignore the stats. I will look at stuff like view duration and, the obvious ones. But yeah, I'll try to pay attention to what segments work and which ones don't for sure. Have I played VR chat? No, that's probably something I've been asked. I'm pretty much an introvert. And I know that sounds funny. I'm talking to everybody online and, I'm comfortable with camera stuff. I'm fine being on stage. I used to do theater. It's the mingling afterwards, right? Or going to a dinner party and mingling with people. That's not something I enjoy. Being an introvert, I'd rather just kind of sit with a small group of people, like my buddy Exity. That's kind of how I charge my battery. Social engagements just kind of burn me out and deplete my energy. So extend that to virtual reality. For me, it's not fun, VR chat and those types of things. And it's not because the experience is bad or poor. It's just not my thing. I just don't enjoy walking around chatting and the other things that they offer, right? I like MMOs, but I like them for the min-max, uh, you know, the challenge of having a group do a raid and take down something more than I do it for the social element, if that makes sense. All right. Half Dome is the next Oculus iteration. Okay. Thanks. Thanks, John. Think Scorpio for Xbox. Got it. Okay. Interesting. Interesting. I'll have to see. I wonder what the specs are that are attached to that. Pimax just announced yesterday they ironed out all the physical problems. Yeah, I mentioned that at the beginning, Cosmonaut. You may not have been here when I said that, but for the rest of you who also jumped in a bit later, one thing it doesn't show me, it has a 0 out of 200. Doesn't show me. Obviously, I see a lot of names there still. But yeah, what I was started the show with was exactly that. That Pimax had made an announcement that they have started their mass production phase, which is awesome, and that includes Steam VR 2.0 tracking sensors for the HMD and their very knuckleish looking controllers. So Ready Player One, I mean, not the Oasis. Epyx, have you seen the movie? Share your thoughts. The Oasis. No, I haven't seen that movie, and I'm a pretty good movie person. Can't believe I haven't seen that by Spielberg. You got me interested though. I will watch it, and if you remember, next streaming one, ask me the question again. Oh, Randy H9. Holy smokes, there's a name that goes way back. Welcome back. Thanks, man. What else here? Cosmonaut says he was watching the history of VR videos. Yeah, I got to get back to part 3. I think I've got part 1 and 2, and I never did finish part 3, which is kind of still being written. We're experiencing part 3, but I'll definitely try to get that up, at least to kind of bring it to, kind of the dawn of this kind of age, right? When Rift launched. That would be probably part 3 from the early 90s up to now. Oh, sorry, you meant Ready Player One. I gotcha. Yeah, I did see that. I was thinking, was there some obscure movie that I missed? Right? There's always gems out there, or cheesy gems like Logan's Run, which is still a movie I enjoy. But yeah, no, I enjoyed it. And you know what? Being in VR, and you guys, any of you who watched Ready Player One, there were things in there that probably made you kind of face palm and groan a bit, right? That you're like, okay, that's so not realistic. But the idea of it, yeah, I enjoyed that aspect. I mean, there were things that I liked. Was it one of my favorite movies of all time? No. Um, did I enjoy the movie? Yeah. Do I think it was as good as the book? No, in a nutshell. So, what are you thinking as far as live streams, quantity wise? Like I said, this was the first one, and not really sure what to expect, or I wasn't sure what to expect going into it. But I think, if I do them, I think Fridays are probably a good night for that, Game and Friday, and we can chat gaming, whatever we've done that week. Frequency, I don't know, maybe like a monthly one to start with, and then either pull back. Or the beautiful thing about these is there's no real editing, right? It's just chatting back and forth. So we'll do as many as feels right. Just grab the lightsaber audio shield like game. Make sure you use the antiperspirant. That game is mental. Oh man, and I'm a sweat monster. You guys, anyone who's watched me knows that. But yeah, you just got me thinking. Nepcros with Skyrim VR. There's a mod out there that does 3D positional audio, and it's just a small little DLL you plop in, and it makes an absolute world of difference. That was probably the most disappointing aspect of Skyrim VR that the devs paid zero attention to. And I understand it's the same team that did Skyrim for Switch is the one that did Skyrim VR that we're playing on PC. Yeah, it was the audio, because it's so flat and there's no positional cues at all. But add some mods in, and suddenly it becomes that much more immersive. And I would say, like, if you're ranking the types of mods for the Skyrim VR experience, make sure your top 5 has a good audio mod, because it makes all the difference. Just having stuff happen around you, beside you, the traps in dungeons, for example, you can literally hear the logs rolling at you from your right? So makes a huge difference. Alien Isolation. Oh yeah, funny story on that. So I run a IT department in my real life job. I'm an IT operations manager, and the group that works for me, they're all gamers too, which is awesome. And They had one of their buddies try the Alien Isolation mod, and he likes aliens, but at the same time, he's freaked out by aliens. And yeah, it was a jarring experience for the guy, nightmares and many sleepless nights. And that same guy played probably about 3 minutes worth of Resident Evil VR and took the HMD off and just said he'd had enough. So, and when I say it's desensitized me, Resident Evil 7 VR, to horror movies, it really has, guys. It's not lip service. It really has. Like, it's hard to watch a static horror movie and have that kind of instill any fear in you anymore after you've experienced kind of the visceral onslaught of Resident Evil, right? In VR. It's a powerful experience. And you don't have to, love horror, hate horror. If you want to feel the potential in terms of emotions, whatever those emotions are, try Resident Evil 7 in VR. If you think VR gaming is just kind of a flat experience emotionally, it'll prove you wrong for sure. Interesting that you had the same experience with Skyrim that I told you about with the laundry room. Yes, Jawa. Yes, exactly. That you had with Fallout 4. That's a game I got to get back to too. I don't even know how much that has changed. My whole thing with Bethesda, look, I love the company. Like I said, they didn't have to do VR. They did, which is awesome. But they're a company that tends to program something. They'll release one or two patches because they kind of have to. And then they kind of leave it to the community, right? To do the rest. So, yeah, I never hold my breath that much is going to change when it comes to Bethesda. But with that said, there's probably a lot more modding stuff out for Fallout 4 VR. So, definitely one that I want to check. And, Jawa, if you're still here, has the performance gotten any better for Fallout 4? What happened to PC Resident Evil 7 VR? Daniel Fritz, good question. Yeah, I was wondering that myself, because as good as it was on PlayStation VR, holy smokes, could that be the experience on a PC, right? Like audio wise, graphically, they could literally take fear to the next level. Just shows how, yeah, exactly. VR really can. Absolutely. And you start looking at games differently when they're in VR. Like I said, and I hate to keep bringing up Skyrim, guys, but it was the one that really did pull me back the hardest. There's things that you notice about that game that you knew, but didn't maybe bother you as much when you played it flat, right? The combat, for example, it is just so bad in VR with swords. Using magic, using bow and arrows, you can add a little bit of challenge back to it and scale the difficulty of the monsters and your encounters with mods. But I haven't found an actual combat mod in VR yet that actually makes it a little bit more difficult and be something other than this, because that's pretty much all you got to do and just move forward and things die, right? Cheers, guys. Absolutely. Good thing about live chat is that you can talk of other things outside VR games. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, if you guys have questions for other stuff, I know you've been asking them, go ahead. It doesn't have to specifically be VR. It can be tech too. Can't wait to see me in a Tesla suit. Yeah, let me drop about 50 pounds first, please, because I really don't want to see myself in a Tesla suit right now. Well, we are all looking for, yeah, Resident Evil for sure. For Fallout 4 VR, they'd added patches that added scopes and a bit of performance increase. Okay, good stuff. Thanks. You can tweak the INI files. Hey, Krister. Oh, how are you? He is the man responsible for these. Still my favorite headphones for the Vive. All right. Why can't we play games on Oculus Rift that are on Oculus Go? Yeah, like I said, I just don't know enough about that. I got to get back up to speed on that. Tyler Johnson, am I playing Elite still? Absolutely. That was the first one that I tried. Then it was Skyrim. Then it was like, how could I leave VR for 4 months? Paradise DK. There's another familiar name. Thanks, man. Good to see you're still running the channel as well. But I will get up to speed. So Supersonic Station, the next time we chat, I'll be able to answer that question. Back in time for the Steam summer sale. Oh man, those Steam summer sales, guys, I've spent so much money on those and the damn winter sales, but they're good. Skyrim VR, that's actually what got me was the summer sale. I purchased it uh, however many days back that was now. So 30% off, I think it is. What do I think of Pimax? Yep. I mentioned that at the beginning for anybody who joined late a couple of times. Basically, look, the fact that they're communicating consistently throughout, you got to give them, well, maybe not credit because that would be your expectation. We've gotten so used to radio silence from a lot of these Kickstarter people that that's almost become the norm, and it seems like this amazing thing when a company communicates. So really, they're doing what they should. So I don't know about giving them props, but they've been keeping communication. The hardware looks great. I can't wait to try it. The field of view is what I'm most intrigued about. I want to know how me personally, how I'm going to react to that larger field of view, and how that warpage, that slight warpage at the periphery, how that's going to impact me and my experience on the Pimax. So, ever think of a draw between your fans to win the chance to play with you in a multiplayer game? Yeah, most most guys, well, like I said, like I do multiplayer stuff, but the introvert in me, I'm just like I said, it's something I'll try to do more of for sure. So I like the idea. Absolutely. I definitely don't have a shortage of stuff laying around hardware wise. Okay, let me just catch up to the questions here. Anything else I missed? I use an open theater system for VR. Yeah, that would be good. Holy smokes. Gopher Chuck says he's got a 600-watt Yamaha amp and speakers, which is amazing. The experience having it open, stuff feels big. Yeah, it would. Absolutely. If you can do it right, and this pretty much is my dedicated VR room. So I've got lamps up and stuff, but when I'm actually playing here and not recording, I've got a lot more room in here. I move that all, the guitar, everything to the side. But one thing that I'm missing here is exactly that. Speakers, positional speakers around to have some kind of like 6.1. That would be amazing in VR for sure. For now, the headphones work. What are my opinion on VR arcades? This is Lou T. Yeah, actually, I got a few opinions about that. So, to me, there's a few different types of VR arcades, right? You've got the Japanese model, which really is an extension of their regular arcade. I mean, if there's one country that you can look at and say they never went through the arcade death like we did here in the West, it would be Japan, right? It pretty much continued to evolve. And you've still got, whether it's Street Fighter 4 a few years back, their cabinet designs evolved over the years, like the Namco cabs, etc. Here in the West, their traditional arcade, that was kind of my generation that I grew up with. That was social gaming for us before there was social gaming. Sadly, that pretty much died, right? In the late 90s, early 2000s. Theaters kind of kept it a little bit. Chuck E. Cheese calls it an arcade, but it wasn't what Chuck E. Cheese used to have with, all the little gimmicky machines. But with VR arcades, yeah, you've got kind of the corporate driven ones. So that's, like the IMAX stuff. What's the one in New York? Escapes me right now. The Ghostbuster Experience, the name of that company. Those corporate, bigger, scale driven ones. And then you've kind of got, at least here in the West, on the other side of the spectrum, you've kind of got the mom and pop, somebody with a Vive or two sets up shop and dedicates a couple of rooms and has people book time to use the equipment. So Yeah, what people call a VR arcade kind of varies, right? Depending on what you're talking about. But if you're asking me my thought on the corporate ones, all kinds of potential for sure. Uh, think about all those experiences that if you have a little bit more money, a little bit more hardware power, and traditionally that's what arcades were able to deliver versus what you had at home, right? Your home computer was never as good as the arcade. And if they can stay a couple of steps ahead, use better hardware, better software, they can be pretty damn good experiences. And we've seen some of that. Like the Ghostbusters one, you can walk around. The room scale isn't as limited as it is for most of us with our Rifts and Vives, and certainly the PlayStation VR. So, yeah, I think that type of in the right city will continue to exist. They'll be able to kind of go on. The mom and pop ones, unfortunately, they're going to come and go. Maybe they can get lucky, kind of hang in there for a while. But really, you're going to have mostly customers who, they want the experience because they can't afford it. Eventually, they're going to afford it. They're going to stop coming. So your clientele, it's not going to be like those corporate driven ones where the experience is so good they can't recreate it at home, right? And the mom and pop ones, yeah, they just can't offer that. So that's kind of my thoughts there. And the bell fails me again. Not sure. Did I miss another one? Let's go back. Do I play guitar? Yes, very poorly. I actually purchased that for my daughter with a much smaller amp. Now I've got a Fender. Year and a half I've played for because it was just gathering cobwebs, and I listen to metal and lots of music, but metal is my favorite. So I just kind of tinkered around with it, enjoyed it, keep doing it. Me too, very poorly as well. Yeah, exactly. But you know what? It's kind of like golf. You can be terrible. That one good shot that you make when you're out there, and everybody usually has at least one good shot, that's what you remember. And it's the same with guitar. You tinker enough, you can kind of make some okay sounds. Gopher, your run is running 5.1 emulated into 7.1. Not all games work perfect, but most are fantastic. Like Elite, your ship sounds cool. Yeah, exactly. No, that's one of the next things for this room for sure. Same issue, simulator games. This is from Techneil. Good to get a group of you together. You can join racing leagues, etc. Yeah, like I love again the cockpit experience in VR. Racing, having competitive racing in VR. Those are all things that are absolutely possible. I mean, look, country like South Korea can have competitive StarCraft 24/7. Why couldn't we have something like that for sure? Heading out now, Liam. Cheers, man. Anybody else who's got to go? Thanks for dropping by. What are my thoughts on playing video games against AI software program? Well, I started out my IT career as a programmer, and I've always had a fascination with AI, going back to when I was a kid and trying to figure out the AI in a game like Zork. Um, so who asked that question? It was Mike Chauncey. So I don't know how old you are, Mike, but like I'm mid 40s. So for me, it was just, has anyone given me crap for using a Blue Yeti mic? No, I'm not the best audio guy. I'm sure there's better mics, but you know what? It served me okay for now. But yeah, going back to the AI thing, yeah, always fascinated with AI. And I notice, just like I notice a dead pixel, I notice when AI is terrible, right? And as much as I love Skyrim, the AI is absolutely freaking terrible, especially for people, right? 1 second, the guard is talking about taking an arrow to the knee. He could actually take an arrow to his head. And then 2 minutes later, what was that, right? The arrow's long gone. He's miraculously recovered. Like stuff like that is jarring. It takes you out of the game. So I started yapping there and I missed the question, didn't I? Playing video games against AI software programs. Yeah, well, I guess if you're asking, am I okay with having AI opponents? Absolutely. I remember the first bots that they had in kind of like the Unreal Tournament. Those were at the time, you sometimes had difficulty telling if it was a bot or not. My channel is not for monetary gain. Go for chucks. Do it just to show what can be done in VR, like riding shotgun on your own replays. Exactly. Supersonic Station asks, why is Microsoft not doing VR on Xbox One X? They lied to us when selling us the console at E3 2 years ago. Yeah, I was talking about that at the start too, that I said back just before Christmas, I was convinced that that would be this year's E3 announcement from Microsoft, Xbox One VR support. And I was absolutely wrong. It did not come to pass. Yeah, you know what? That's Microsoft. And if you look at their history of decision making, it doesn't seem to matter who's at the helm, who's running marketing. That's kind of always been their MO. Look at the Windows for Games days, right? DirectX. There was so much more like, why did we have to wait 5 years for Halo 2? That could have been the highlight. And some people say, well, then they're competing with themselves. No, they're not competing with themselves. The Xbox and PC, they were separate enough, especially back then, that I don't buy that argument, right? They could have done a lot more for Windows gaming. And instead, we now have Steam. That could have been them, right? Had they played it properly. And let's see here. So yeah, I'm probably going to go about, I guess we're at it about an hour now. A few more minutes, guys. So if you got any questions, I'll probably wrap it up in about 10-15, but definitely do this again for sure. But in the meantime, let me just wrap up on some of these questions here and see if there's anything else I want to talk about. I think we covered pretty much the things. Yeah, the format of the show, just again, I'll repeat one more time, and then I'm going to go through some of the last questions. So instead of having different shows, it's one show. It's going to be once a week, a little bit better editing. VR Roundup, instead of being a separate show, is going to be a segment, quick news bits, some me playing different games, and editorial type thing to wrap up the show. That's kind of the format that I have in mind. I think that's going to work really well. Need GPUs to catch up. Yeah, this is Tech Neil saying need GPUs to catch up as always. Yeah, I've had my 1080 Founders Edition now. What is it? Would this be year 3 or year 2? I think it's probably 2 or 3, whatever. Yeah, there's some new ones on the horizon, but for most people, the TI is still kind of the big kid on the block. And yeah, it's been a few years. It's definitely been slowing down for GPUs, for sure. Been waiting on new NVIDIA cards. Yep, going down 20% in price. Yeah, I got a motherboard. I got the Asus Pro Gamer 170, I think I have, which is Crossfire/SLI. I was originally going to get 2 of the Founders Edition cards. I never did end up doing that because we moved, but I'll probably just stick with a single card solution and skip TI and then go to that next, what is it, the 1100 series. Good to see me back. Thanks, Garen Garch. It's good to be back. Did Pimax flop? This is Ivan Fair. That's a tough one. They've still got to launch before they flop. I mean, communication-wise, like I was saying, they did what they needed to do. They kept in communication. The proof's going to be in the actual launch itself, how smooth that goes, how the units get into people's hands. If they have a string of PR nightmares, right, because of quality issues, like if these things start going out with lenses falling out or, insert whatever quality control issue you want, there's a lot of room still for them to screw things up, right? They got to get through that launch first. They can get through the launch smoothly, and that's a big and, the technology can live up to the hype. If it can deliver on that big field of view, if that warpage isn't something that bothers people, and we just talked about GPUs, right? If the 1080s of the world and the 1070s can power, your typical game enough, they should do all right. But yeah, are they going to be superstars in the market? No, I don't think so. They'd have to have done things a little differently and have a bit more luck involved. 44 once a week is plenty for me. Yeah, probably. Yeah, once a week for the show, and then a live stream probably once a month to start. Thanks, Ivan. Good to be back, like I said. And Mr. Thornton says he thinks 2020 as well. So I don't know what that was in reference to. Was it the video card? Yeah, you use a Blue Yeti mic. Sorry, the second half of when I said somebody was razzing me for using the Blue Yeti. Heflin says, I use a Blue Yeti mic. It's a good mic, but picks up background noise easier than a dynamic mic. Yeah, I would agree. I definitely have to do a lot of editing post for audio stuff like that, for sure. But compared to what I've used in the past, which is nothing, it's a hell of a lot better than a boom mic from one of these. All right, 1080, 3 years old. Thanks, Gopher Chucks. I thought it was 3, 2 to 3, but 3, yeah, and that's amazing. Think about that. That's a 3-year-old card, and benchmark wise, it's still on the top half, right? I think Pimax is under a non-disclosure agreement or something like that. Oh, absolutely, chicken strips. They definitely are, and there's certain things that aren't going to come to light until things actually get launched. How's the PC running? Any upgrades been done? I think the last upgrades, and I may have filled you guys in on, I've got a 700, the Skylake i7. 6700, the i7 Skylake, or is it 6600? I think it's 6700. All right. Yeah, that's what I'm running. 32 gigs of RAM. I basically pillaged my second gaming rig because there's no Exity. Not yet, anyways. Once he's here, I'll probably build that rig up again. But I took the 16 gigs out of that, doubled up. So I've got 32 i7 6700 with the 1080 Founders Edition on an Asus Pro Gamer 170 with an absolutely overpowered, unnecessary platinum EVGA 1300 watt power supply. There you go. Which was absolute overkill. But again, remember, I thought I was going to go SLI. So sadly, VR is still CPU intensive. Yeah, nowhere did I notice that more. And I mean, those of you who've kept up with programming like Java, you're still there. You would know better than me. But whether Arizona Sunshine, the difference between the i5 and the i7 in terms of the physics, because nowadays a lot of physics is offloaded on the GPU, but that was one game, Arizona Sunshine, that offloaded physics and took advantage of the i7. Again, whether that was gimmicky or not, I haven't seen the code. I couldn't say, but I noticed a huge difference going from my Sandy Bridge i5 to the i7 in that game for sure. But nothing gave me a better performance jump than moving to a 1080. That was huge. Okay, sorry, that was the one there. Jefferson just mentioned it. An 1180 Ti. That's the card that I want. Absolutely. The jump to the Ti, the 1080 Ti from what I have, the Founders Edition, isn't big enough for me to justify the cost, right? Paying that much again. But the 1180 Ti, that's a jump that I would absolutely pay for. So Pimax testers are under the non-disclosure agreement. Yeah. The only feedback that I remember distinctly is Swivivor's feedback when he had that 25 or 30 minutes at some convention or other. And he was specifically talking about those things like the screen door effect on the Pimax, the field of view, the warpage. You're running the KB Lake 7700 per your rec. Yeah, that's a great one, Gopher, for sure. For sure. Same system as mine, pretty much 6700K. Yeah, I've got the K2, the unlocked processor, exactly. And you've got the MSI GTX. I've got the EVGA. And it still does well enough. Techneil agreed. It actually made a little more CPU intensive to stream Arizona because of that, I think. Yeah, possibly. And then Jefferson's got the 6700K. Still does well. Yeah, it really does. I mean, the big jump was i5 to i7. Within the i7 family, on the same GPU, unless I'm incorrect, I think the most you're going to see is probably high single digits percentage-wise difference. Like the current i7 on a 1080 versus what we have with the 6700. But I haven't looked at the benchmarks closely. But now that I'm back, I'll look a little closer. Could only run mine at 4.4. Techneil says you could run his at 4.4. That's what I'm running at. 4.5, and that's air cooled, but it's stable. So predicting that PhysX is going beaten within 2 years. Wow, that's a pretty hefty prediction, Jawa, but I would not put a prediction past you. You've been right pretty often as long as I've known you. Good to have you back. Thanks, Nepcros. And what else do we have here later? Diamond, thanks for dropping by, man. Have a good one. Does it mean you're coming back, dumbass? Yes, it does, Diamond. I need to get myself a Windows MR. Love my PlayStation VR, but the games are just so lacking lately. Yeah, I mean, that's the problem when you've got a console over something. I mean, yeah, there's some indie games, but that same indie driver of VR games that we have on the PC side of things via Steam, unfortunately, there's not that same kind of mass momentum on the PlayStation VR side. But yeah, I got to credit them for at least hanging in there, and they've done pretty good sales wise. I mean, look at the stats for PlayStation Resident Evil VR on the PlayStation VR. That was responsible for moving a lot of PlayStation VR units for sure. Nady did an E3 coverage, says PC VR is coming strong next year. Yeah, I mean, they've laid out a really good foundation for themselves. They've got X millions of units out there, right? Single digits, low, but still not bad for a couple of years, and really no competitors on the console side of things. Just so many games on PC VR. There really is. And it's to the point where I've pretty much moved to Steam, though. There were some holdouts that I would play with Oculus Home. How about you guys? If you've got, the Rift and a Vive, or Rift games on Oculus and on Steam. For me, mostly I've moved over to playing them pretty much all on Steam. The quality seems to be there now, whereas in the beginning, they were a little hit or miss, right? All right, so 6:09. So yeah, I'll wrap things up in about 5 minutes, guys. But again, really appreciate you dropping by. I'm just going to get through these last questions here. If you have any questions, shoot them. Now's the time. 6700 overclocked to 5.2. Yeah, definitely. Unfortunately, with air cooling, not going to happen for me. What else do we got here? Same. Just lost us to each other. Hey, Epyx. Inspired me to get a Rift. Peter James Ledwith. That's a name I actually recognize. Inspired me to get a Rift. Glad you're back, bro. Thanks very much, Peter. Good to be back. 5.2, you won the silicone. Yeah, that was a guy saying he was able to do 5.2 on that. Wow, that is insane. I thought 4.5 stable was impressive. The man back when it comes to VR. Well, like I said, guys, and I'll do her again. Cheers, eh? I really appreciate you guys dropping by tonight. Sorry if it was a little rough. This is literally my first time streaming, so trying to keep it moving here, but I'll get more comfortable with them. Can do 5 gig. Okay, it looks like that's it for any plan on trying the Knuckles. Yeah, so let's kind of end things off with talking about when you can expect the first show, and what I'm going to do hardware-wise. And we'll start with that question. Do I plan on trying the Knuckles? Yes, plan on trying the Knuckles, the Samsung Odyssey, the Vive Pro. There's a lot of hardware, the Pimax, of course, that I want to try. What I'm actually going to get will depend on how those things test out for me. I've got resources around me here that have all that hardware and Pimax coming. So when I do, I'll film it, share that with you guys, and let you know what I end up purchasing myself. Excuse me. Keep it up, please. Welcome back. Think I'm going to dump the 300 on wireless. Yeah, wireless is another thing that I'm definitely eyeing. Whether I wait until room scale and stuff improves a little bit, I'm not sure, but it would be nice to be tether free for sure. When do I think Resident Evil 7 VR is coming on PC? Man, usually pretty good for predictions, but I've been absolutely ass terrible the last 6 months. But I would hope um, the tail end of this calendar year, going into the holiday season, that would be my hope. Sorry, guys. Days for Resident Evil 7, that is. But I think it's going to be amazing when it does come out. It's going to be a special experience. And I'll imagine that playing on a Pimax or a Vive Pro. That's going to be pretty sweet. How many years did you think it would take for current PC VR quality to be inexpensive? Would it take? So the current hardware that we have, we're in 2018 now. I still think it's a couple of years away from being cheap to the point where it's like buying a 3DS. That is kind of that price point that I see an HMD at, needing to be at, to be something that people are just going to pick up in mass, right? Once you start getting under 500, it gets better. Once you get under 300, it gets even better. Just look at the history of consoles. Between 150 and 300, if you can hit that, you can move some serious units if the games are there and the rest of the marketing falls in place. As a Gen Xer, I'm still living the dream of VR, actually being here for good. Yeah, Tech Neil, fellow Gen Xer here too, man. Same. Video schedule. Yeah, when do I plan on doing my next one? So let's talk about that here in case people have to drop off like me in a few. So, first episode, I'm going to aim for getting out next weekend. So, I've got a week here to kind of get back up to speed. If the quality is where I want it to be at in terms of like me being up to speed enough news wise, hardware knowledge wise, that'll happen. If it doesn't, I may hold off one more week, but expect something within the next 1 to 2 weeks. Man, thinking about VR exclusive just gets me fired up. Honestly, Oculus loves to keep, it all to themselves. Yeah, I know. I get the arguments initially for exclusives to, give them the monetary reasons to make the games. But once that falls to the wayside as being a justifiable reason, I don't buy it anymore, right? And I've never been a fan of that. Just like I'm not a fan of, what the hell do you call those? The, not Kickstarters on Steam, the early access. The one guy who gave me all the grief about early access. Remember that Octo Shield game? If anybody remembers that, and the guy was all over me. 10 Ways to Tuesday. How dare I talk about early access like that? 3 weeks after he says that, he leaves the game and everybody high and dry, and to date has never finished the freaking game. So, kind of case in point. But yeah. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. This is the last sweep here of questions. Did I ever play Alien Isolation? No, I haven't yet. Going to, though. I just keep on rambling. I know. I'm going to shut up now. There we go. Let's shut up now. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. Next week or two is when you can expect that episode, and be back for streaming one probably a few weeks after that first episode. Or sooner, who knows? Guys, thank you much. Appreciate you dropping by. And as always,